Imagine this for a second. A single candle flickering in a dark room. Outside, the Roman Empire is at the absolute peak of its power. But inside that room, words are being written down that will outlive that empire and, well, countless others after it. That's what we're digging into today. One of the most powerful, influential documents in all of Western history, the Book of Romans.
So let's picture the scene. Our source puts us in the city of Corinth around the year 57 AD. You've got Emperor Nero on the throne in Rome, holding all the political power. But the real history, the real weight, is right here, with a scribe named Tertius, whose hand is literally shaking as he writes. And this is the moment. It's that simple and that profound. You have one man, the Apostle Paul, speaking, and another, Tertius, writing it all down. And together, they are creating this letter, a letter to a small community of believers in the very heart of the empire. They have no idea it's about to reshape philosophy, theology, and millions upon millions of lives.
So that's the big question for us, isn't it? How did this single document, pretty much born in a single night, end up having such a massive, world-altering impact? All right, let's dive in and find out. Okay, first things first. To really get this, we have to understand who was behind the letter and the exact moment in history it was written. We're talking about the year 57 AD. Now, this is really important because it's during the early, kind of more stable years of Emperor Nero's reign. The huge, violent storm of persecution hasn't quite broken yet, but you can feel it coming. And the letter is being sent towards Rome, towards the center of all that power, not away from it.
Now, this is where it gets super interesting, the team behind it. You've got Paul, who is the author, the mind behind the theology. He makes his authority clear right in verse 1. But then, way at the end, in chapter 16, this other guy, Tertius, pops in and says, hey, I'm the one who actually wrote this down. Paul was the voice, but Tertius was the hand. So who was this letter actually for? Well, it was sent to a really divided community, a church in Rome that our source says was basically forged in social chaos.
You see, unlike a lot of other early churches, the one in Rome wasn't started by a big-name apostle like Peter or Paul. The thinking is that it probably just started organically. Jewish pilgrims who were in Jerusalem for Pentecost heard the message, and they just brought it back home with them. It was a totally grassroots movement growing right under the nose of the emperor. And then everything gets shaken up. Around 49 AD, a Roman historian named Suetonius writes that the Emperor Claudius kicked all the Jews out of Rome because of constant riots at the instigation of Chrestus. Now, most scholars are pretty sure Chrestus is just a misspelling of Christos, or Christ. Basically, huge fights were breaking out over this new faith. And here's why that matters so much. That ban lasted for 5 years. When the Jewish Christians were finally able to come back to Rome, they came back to a church that was now run by and filled with non-Jews, with Gentiles. And this created huge tensions. Arguments over food, holy days, the role of Jewish law. These are the very problems Paul is writing to solve.
So, how did Paul tackle such a deep division? Well, to get the letter's power, you have to see its structure. Our source compares it to a grand, perfectly designed cathedral. Every piece fits together for a reason.
The whole thing builds with this incredible, relentless logic. First, in chapters 1 through 5, Paul lays the foundation. Everybody, Jew and Gentile, has the same problem, sin. And there's one solution for everyone, salvation through faith. Then, in chapters 6 to 8, he explains how that salvation actually changes a person. Next, chapters 9 to 11, he zooms out to tackle the big, tough question about Israel's place in all this. And only after all of that does he get to the practical, how to live stuff. And this is the absolute key. You can't just flip to chapter 12 and get the life hacks. The command to be a living sacrifice starts with the word therefore. And that one little word carries the entire weight of the first 11 chapters of deep theology. For Paul, what you do is a direct result of what you believe. Right behavior flows from right belief. So this structure isn't just elegance. It's proven to be explosive. Let's just take a quick look at a few times this letter completely lit a fire in history. It's amazing. From the final days of the Roman Empire all the way to the Enlightenment, this one letter just keeps showing up at these massive historical turning points. It helps convert one of the greatest philosophers. It fuels a reformation that splits Europe. It inspires a man to die for his translation, and it sparks a massive spiritual revival. So picture this. It's 386 AD.
A brilliant but totally tormented guy named Augustin is weeping in a garden in Milan. He hears a child's voice chanting, "Take up and read." He grabs a scroll, opens it randomly to Romans chapter 13, and reads. In that one instant, he said, all his doubt just vanished. It changed everything for him.
Okay, now fast forward more than 1,000 years. A German monk named Martin Luther is obsessed with the book of Romans. He calls it the purest gospel, and his understanding of salvation through faith, which he got straight from these pages, became the theological engine that powered the entire Protestant Reformation.
And then you have William Tyndale. His story is just wow. He was hunted down and executed in 1536. His crime? Translating the New Testament, including Romans, into English so that a regular person could read it. His very last words were a prayer for the King of England, and just 3 years later, that same king authorized an English Bible for the whole country.
So what is it about this one letter? Why does it keep having this kind of effect on people, on history itself? Well, that brings us to the source's final point, what it calls the letter's enduring claim. The main idea here is that Romans refuses to just be a historical artifact. It's not some dusty old document for scholars to study under glass. It's presented as a living text that confronts every single person who reads it, no matter what century they live in. It asks something of you. And so we end right back where we started, in that dimly lit room in Corinth. The source leaves us with this final, challenging thought. The candle is lit. The scribe's hand is ready, the words have been written, and we've seen their power echo through history. The only question left is a personal one. A letter written in the shadow of one empire, still speaking, still challenging, long after that empire has turned to dust.